Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. So today, I want to talk a little bit about some things I've really been enjoying with Warhammer Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. We've had about 10 battle reports now on the channel, and I've played quite a few extra games on top of that, probably totaling in about 25 to 30 games in total now of the brand new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, in various iterations of completeness. I mean, I've played some as soon as we got the points leaks. I've played some since we got the core rules. And we've played some with the pre-FAQ, and now we're playing some after the FAQ as well. So I've played a bunch of different things. However, I think I've learned a lot of the core fundamentals and the core things that I've liked about how the game has changed. I haven't been this enthusiastic about AOS in quite some time. Definitely near the end of the last edition with Broken Realms, did invigorate me a lot with the lore and the story and stuff like that, but I felt maybe the games weren't quite as exciting as they could be. With 3rd edition, that's all changed. I really am enjoying the game that much more. I think it is a much better game. I truly do believe GW are right in saying it is the best edition of the game ever. That's not to say, though, it is perfect. There are definitely some nails sticking out that need to be hammered in properly. However, today we're all going to talk about the positives, and I'm going to talk about 10 things I've loved about Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. Let's get cracking into the video proper. Number 1, battle tactics and grand strategies. Now, I will completely admit that when we were talking about adding secondary objectives and tertiaries and all that sort of stuff into the game, I was a little bit hesitant. I thought it might make the game too overly complicated. I thought it might sort of ruin the simplicity that there is of AOS. However, I am completely wrong, because this doesn't really change all that much on how you play the game. These are sure extra things to think about, but I don't think it adds any major complexity to the game. Generally, how I tend to look at it is a grand strategy is part of your army list now, so you're trying to build your army to complete a grand strategy, so that's definitely something you think of and look towards when you're building your army. So that doesn't sort of change your gameplay, because it should be a tactic that you've got for your army set up from the get-go. But battle tactics are also an interesting thing, just based on how they sort of work in the game. I think they're one of the most exciting things to do, trying to not only win the game, but these battle tactics each turn, they're really important to how the game is played. They're fun to complete, and that do or die against them that they have, where, you're trying to I'm going to try and do takedown to kill a monster. I'm going to use my monster. I've got to do 3 wounds, and oh no, all of a sudden you've used Finest Hour as well. And you use command points, and but I've roared, so you can't use a command point. It makes for such an interesting and fun game with these battle tactics, and the grand strategies also add to that as well. That I've been thoroughly enjoying these particular parts of the game so far. And number 2, sort of continuing on from what I was talking about, and sort of connected in a way, I guess, to battle tactics and grand strategies, I like the scoring system that is sort of the norm in scenarios. Not all scenarios follow this particular scoring system, but a lot of them do. And one of my favourite things about this is sort of the standardisation it's brought to the game, and how I think games are much closer because of how the scoring has worked. So, for starters, you can remove some sort of people getting the advantage where they start to stream out way too much, because there's not that many ways where you can sort of have access to a vast amount of points your opponent can't get in these games anymore. No longer do we have things like focal points in late Age of Sigmar 2.0, where all of a sudden you play a Sons of Behemoth army against you in it, and you've pretty much lost from the get-go. I think these sort of, you control 1, you get 1, you control 2, you get another 1, and you control more, you get another 1, is a really fun way to play the game. It means that you're not having to control the whole board as well. If there's 3 objectives, you only need to control 2 to get 3 points, which is interesting in how you can sort of play tactically with that in the game. And also, the battle tactics giving extra points to score, and then completing your grand strategy is also another interesting thing that can happen in the games. This is all just an absolute ton of fun, and something that's really interesting and adds to the games, and I think it really has made the games tighter and more played out. I mean, I've played a lot more 5-turn games in the last couple of weeks than I have in probably the last year of Age of Sigmar 2.0. So this scoring change has certainly made for a better game without a doubt. This one, pretty simple. Number 3, pile-in rules changes. This has been a simple but effective change to the game that's meant more models fight, more models do the thing you want them to do, and there's less this sort of, oh, I've trapped you or you can't move sort of stuff that happens. I really do like this change. It's just been a good change for the game in general. Gets more fighting happening, stops more sort of feel-bads. I really don't like the idea of how it was done before. It wasn't the most fun way to do it, of how, oh, I've put 2 models next to you, so now you can't move, because you've got to remain close to both those models. I like the new changes and how you now move towards the closest unit. It's fun. It's the correct way to do it. It's cool. It just works. It makes for a better game and a more fun and enjoyable game, and gets out some of the sort of nitty-gritty sort of little cunning tactics that maybe aren't the most fun things in the world. Number 4, realm rules. This is a great change for the game. Realm rules have always been that thing where some places in the world have used them massively, some have just completely ignored them. In Australia, for the most part, realm rules were completely thrown to the side. And this made me sad. As a narrative gamer at heart, it was always sad to see realm rules at tournaments just thrown aside and not used at all. And when they were used, that maybe they could break the game. So I understand why they got thrown aside sometimes, because they could be game breaking. However, the realm rules and what they've done and how they're doing realm rules in the new GHB is fun, interesting, and also makes for a level playing field that the game system is the same for the entire edition. We've got these rules that now we're playing in GUR at all times in a sort of match play environment, and we have these same rules that active that now we're not having to think about all these different things that can happen, because there's one set of rules for the next year. And I do hope after this that we change to either maybe another place in GUR that's got some different things happening, or another realm entirely. I really do like the realm rules, and not just that we're playing like this one system for a year. I also think they've done the realm rules really well. They've not given realm artifacts, so there's no haves and have-nots with the realm artifacts. But they've given a cool spell that definitely has some great thought behind it in how it works in this current edition, turning your wizard into a monster. The ability to take objectives off the table on turn 3 is a really interesting tactical part of the game. I've really enjoyed that being part of the game. And also the ability to just do the other things you can as well on top of all of this is just fun. Realm rules really well done in the current edition. Number 5, generic enhancements. This has been a great thing to come back and see. This reminds me of Warhammer Fantasy, and in a good way. This is one of the good things that Warhammer Fantasy had. So every army has these more specialized artifacts, and I love that. But these generic artifacts take out, every army having like, oh, we've got a 5-up shrug artifact somewhere in our army somehow. Put it in generic artifacts. Everyone's got that already. You can go in there. Oh, we've got this weapon that gives us a command point. Every army's got that. Put it in generic artifacts. Generic spells. Everyone's got a spell to do this particular thing that does mortal wounds. Put it in generic. This is great for getting those generic spells out of the books and allowing the books to have more sort of unique and interesting spells that you can use to work particular combos, but it also gives you those sort of generic things to just do very basic stuff as well. This is a massive and good change for the game, and I really do hope we see generic staying at maybe the limit they are. I mean, we can maybe go to 3, a couple more in each one, but we don't want to be pushing it to many more sort of artifacts in the game or stuff like that, because you want the books to have the majority, and these generic ones just to take those 5+ shrugs that everyone has out and put them into this book and the core ones. 6, Monstrous Rampages. This has been one of the most fun things in the game. I like the 4 options we have. I like the sort of tactical decisions I've started to see come up as you've got multiple monsters in combat and figuring out which ones you want to use where and how. But in general, I think this has just made monsters more fun to play. The ability to stomp and do some mortal wounds before combat even begins, stop your opponent using command abilities is nice as well, to even the Titanic duels to make your monster-on-monster fights that much more epic. I really do love everything we've seen with Monstrous Rampages, and I want to be upset to maybe see a couple more come into the game, or maybe armies get army-specific Monstrous Rampages. This could be something interesting we could explore in the game. And of course, you don't want too much of a good thing, but maybe, every army gets one particular Monstrous Rampage for them, or maybe every monster starts getting a Monstrous Rampage on their war scroll. It's like, this is the particular one this particular model could use. It could be some interesting way to maybe give something extra to monsters. 7. Finest Hour. Now, heroic abilities are really cool, but I don't think any of them are as cool as the Finest Hour. This just, to me, is when epic moments happen on the table. Using your Finest Hour, going in and killing absolutely everything when you can, or surviving against all odds, is just amazing. This makes for fun and epic moments on the table, and I've absolutely loved using Finest Hours. I've done and tried some weird and wacky things, like using a Finest Hour on a Grot Shaman to charge in and try and kill a Skaven Vermin Lord. It did not go well. But I've also had other successful ones where I've had things like my Blackout Fleet Master all of a sudden go in, Finest Hour, and then he's actually managed to deal the last 4 wounds that he's needed to take down a monster, which was absolutely epic. It makes for a ton of fun things on the table. It makes for memorable moments. This is absolutely one of the best things about the brand new edition. Number 8, Rules Standardization. What I mean by this is how we've seen rules from across the game sort of generically turned into the same thing. A couple of big ones of this is with prayers going to priests and just sort of having the same effects regardless of priest. Now you can only cast 1, they take wounds on a 1. All these rules just making priest this universal thing that you're not having to remember when playing a game going, oh, this is a Fire Slayer priest, so he needs this, and this happens to him if he fails. Or it's a Stormcast priest, he doesn't take any ill effects, but all these prayers are harder to cast. Or it's a Daughter of the Cain priest, and they all go off on 3s, or, so on and so forth. This is a cool thing. It just allows rules to be simply understood. Priest especially is a great example. Another one would be how units are having to come in from reserve, and we're starting to see everything having to come in by the end of turn 3. Another great change. All these rule standardizations, great. They make the game easier to understand, and are generally welcome. Number 9, movement changes. This has been a massive thing of just clearing up and clarifying a bunch of rule changes, but there have been some really big effects in this. Things like not being able to run when you retreat is a really cool change that has made some tactical decisions in games that much more important. Sort of just giving the clarity of what is a normal move, a run, a retreat, a pile in, a charge, etc. has been a good change for the game that's made some rules easier to understand and also made some rules work for particular models in certain different ways. And number 10, interactivity. This has been a major thing that GW have been pushing through the brand new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and the interactivity in the game is great now. I love the fact that you've got all these different command abilities and stuff you can do in your opponent's turn. Redeploy, Unleash Hell are all a ton of fun to see in the game, and they make for interesting sort of mechanics and playing and back and forth between you and your opponent. I like now that a lot of command abilities are based off when you use them, and I hope this is a massive change we see going forward. I like, that all that attack, all that defense are used when you make the rolls. I want to see more command abilities go to this, that you can make decisions on the fly based on what you're seeing sort of happen on the table. It really does make for a more interesting sort of back and forth sort of game. And just in general, like this sort of talk between what happens in the game, you and your opponent talking more, rolling more dice together, and just interacting more makes for fun and exciting games of 3.0. Really is the best thing about the new edition by far. The interactivity between you and your opponent in the game has gone up so much. It's just given it so much to the game as well. A ton of fun. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences. If you managed to get some games in of 3.0, whether in real life, whether on TTS, or whether you're just managing to watch through and enjoy some battle reports from the various channels that do them, what has been your favourite thing you've seen with the new edition or experienced with the new edition? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts, things they like, things they dislike, down in the comments below. Let us know, and let's get talking and get excited about what the future holds for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Well, thank you all for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also, while you're at it, why not come chat more with us on Discord? We've got a link in the description of the video below to our Discord server. You can come chat with me and other members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel in various different ways. First of all, to our Patreon members, Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shot First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, MJ, and Dyna226. Thank you to, as well, our YouTube members Green Roots Gaming, Fire Titan, Steve T, The Real Zeot, Chris Wallace, Turiot12, Vinny, and Loch Lorick. And a special thanks to our artist who does all the channel art for us, Lady Witchfox Art, thank you very much. And to our Discord moderator, Xmorphic, you do a fantastic job on Discord for us as well. Thank you all, everyone, for watching. If you'd like to help support on Patreon or YouTube member, or help support the channel in another way, you can do so by following one of the links in the description of the video to Patreon or YouTube members, or go buy some Sinful Gaming merch from our Teespring store, also linked in the video's description. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.